Hello, math students. Welcome back to Module 1, Ratios and Unit Rates. We are now starting Lesson 14, and it is called Comparison Shopping, Unit Price, and Related Measurement Conversions. Okay, so that's an interesting title. Today we will solve problems by analyzing different unit rates given in tables, equations, and graphs. Okay, so the question that I'm going to be asking you is, what is one thing that can be found in all models of the relationship? So, things to know. The unit price is the same thing as the unit rate. Okay, a unit rate is a quantity that is compared to one. So that was kind of a reminder of what a unit rate is, and it was a new lesson that was telling you that unit price and unit rate are basically the same thing. The only difference is that if it's a unit price, then you're dealing with money, and if it's a unit rate, you can be dealing with any units of measure. Okay, so let's take a look at it. This one says miles per hour, and you have 120 to 2 hours, so we need to find the unit rate, right? So we're going to come and use our handy-dandy tool that we learned. How do you get from 2 to 1? Well, if you remember our rule that dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2, then I'm going to multiply 2 by 1/2, and what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So I'm going to take 120 divided by, or times 1/2, so I have 120 over 1 times 1 over 2. 120 times 1 is 120. 1 times 2 is 2. 120 divided by 2 is 60. So I know that in this unit rate problem, because it doesn't have money, this unit rate problem, that you can travel 60 miles in 1 hour. If you travel 120 miles in 2 hours, then you can travel 60 miles in 1 hour. And we did that just by finding unit rate. So this is an example of unit rate. Now let's look at this one and see if this is an example of unit price. So we have dollars per gallon, and it says that there are, for every $50 you have, you can buy 25 gallons, okay? And so we want to find out how much 1 gallon would cost. Again, we use our handy-dandy multiplicative property, and we ask ourselves, how did we get from 25 to 1? So we remembered that dividing by 25 is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal, which would be 1/25, right? So 25 times 1 is 25. 1 times 25 is 25. 25 divided by 25 is 1. So we found the 1. So what you do to one side, you have to do the other. We're going to multiply by 1/25. So now we're going to take 50 over 1 times 1 over 25. 50 times 1 is 50. 1 times 25 is 25. And then think of money. If you have 50 cents, and then you're dividing it by 25 cents, so basically you're asking how many 25 cents are in 50 cents, and the answer would be 2. Okay, so your unit price is $2 for every 1 gallon. $2 for every 1 gallon, and we know that this is dollars because of that identifying label, and this is gallon because of that identifying label. Okay, so this one is called a unit price. This one is called a unit rate. Very, very similar. Okay, all right, so now it's your turn to try finding the price per gallon and making a ratio table and then an equation. Okay, so price per gallon. So our rate that we're doing is we're doing dollars per gallon. So everybody needs to write down your rate labels, okay? And it says that when you have $2, right? So $2, then you can buy 1 gallon. Does everybody see how that's the rate? And it happens to be the unit rate because it's per 1. So now it's saying make a ratio table and an equation. Okay, so ratio tables can be horizontal, remember. So we are going to say that this is the dollars and this is the gallons. okay? And then we're going to say, because we already learned it, for every $2, there's 1 gallon. So if we wanted to do 2 gallons, how much money would it cost? Well, you use your handy-dandy tool. How did I get from 1 to 2? I times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, that's not so bad. What if I wanted to know 3? 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Very good. What if I wanted to do 4? Then I would say 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. What if I wanted to do 10? Okay, don't get tricked. Very same pattern. How did you get from 1 to 10? Times 10. 2 times 10 is 20. Are you starting to see how it works? So what if I told you that I needed n gallons? So how did I get from 1 to n? I times it by n. So what you do to one side, you have to do the other. So it would be 2n for that one. Okay? And n just means any number of gallons. Then first you have to take the number and multiply it by 2, and you'll get the answer. So we took the number and multiplied it by 2, 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 and that's how we were able to figure out our pattern. So now it's saying we have to write an equation. Okay, so you guys have learned the equation. Y equals, so for every 1 y, you have blank x's, right? So let's talk about that. For every 1 y. So if I have a 1 here, the question is, how did I get there? So to get from 2 to 1, we divide by 2. So 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. So your equation that you would write is you would say 1/2 of x gives you y. So let's look at it. Half of 2 equals 1. Half of 4 equals 2. Half of 6 equals 3. Half of 8 equals 4. Half of 20 equals 10. Half of 2n equals n. And half of 1 equals 1/2. So that's how you would figure out doing that. If we wrote the equation going the other way, then it would have to be x equals, right? When x is 1, so this is your x value right here. This is your y value right here. So when x equals 1, then you have to have 2 y's. And that's true. So when x is 1, it's 2. When x is 2, it's 4. When x is 3, it's 6. When x is 4, it's 8, and so on. Okay? So those are the 2 equations that you can write to see that. Okay? So then it says up here, today we will solve problems by analyzing different unit rates given in tables, equations, and graphs. Okay, so if we were going to throw one more thing in there and draw a little graph, then that wouldn't be too difficult, because remember, a graph is where you have an x and a y, right? And the x on this one says gallons, so I have to write gallons as our identifier. And it says dollars as the y, so I'm going to put that. We can put an x here, we can put a y here. And then it says every 1, so 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then we're going to go, for every 1 there's 2, so we're going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? And then it says for every 1 gallon there's $2. Boom. For every 2 gallons there's $4. Boom. For every 3 is $6. For every 4 is $8. And for every 5 is $10. And then you see that it can be shown on a graph just like that. Okay? What if you had 0? Let's put a 0 in our table. If you have 0 gallons, how much money do you have to pay? $0. So we could graph that one also by putting a 0 right here. So $0 or 0 gallons costs $0. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, and then we have our graph. All right, so that wasn't too hard. Okay, so now let's do this one. Actually, you know what? I'm thinking I may have you do this one, because it's very, very much the same as up here. So one hint I will remind you, first write the 2 things you're comparing. So it says price per ounce, so 75 cents for 1 ounce. So I would say, again, you have money, but instead of having gallons this time, we're going to have per ounce. So you're going to set it up just like this. I would like you to do a table. I would like you to write the two equations, and then I would like you to try to graph it. Okay, so let's go back to our goal. Today we will solve problems by analyzing different unit rates given in tables, equations, and graphs, which is what we just did. What is one thing that can be found in all models of the relationship? All models. Look in this model right here. What could be found in all of them? And if you're saying the ratio or the unit rate, the value of the ratio, then you're correct. Okay? All right, kiddos, that's all I have for you in this lesson, and I will see you soon. Bye!